It's a ridiculous idea to try and make images from music. Hi, my name's Tom Hammick, and I'm a painter, an artist and a printmaker. My work is very much, I hope, about the human condition and love and loss and what it's like to be human. I have very simple relationships between figure and ground, where the backgrounds are often rather like stretched out tapestries. My inspirations come from a whole gamut, really. Being alive on the edge of this planet, spinning in space, theatre, opera, music. So my relationship with Glyndebourne began when I came to a production of The Magic Flute back in the late 80s. It blew me away because I adored the way you almost had someone playing God with objects and figures around it. It clicked that actually you could use this tableau to create metaphors, and I found it intoxicating very, very quickly. I was approached by Glyndebourne about 2 or 3 years ago, and I was invited to do the cover of the programme. And then from that, I started making a whole series of woodcuts, and I found it incredibly exciting working with some of the narratives and the libretto in these operas as well as the music. It's exciting being here, and it's moving for me to be in a position to see my work with other people looking at it. I think it's always a huge treat and an honour for someone to even spend a few seconds looking at a piece of one's work. The pieces that I've made that are hanging in Glyndebourne were very much my own visions conjured up by the music and the storylines going on in the operas. So for instance, in my image called Katia's Kiss, I have a picture of Katia and her love, Boris. I fill a wall surrounding them with colour as if you're almost looking into a kaleidoscope. And I hope that this, in a sense, makes the connection to what's going on, what's coursing through her veins and her heart. So I'm using colour to convey her utter turmoil, her passion and love, but also the fact that this is really doomed because it's too effervescent for this rather bourgeois society. Often in the way I work, I throw about 3 things up in the air at any one time. In a painting called The Unending Sky, I was really thinking about Isolde's Liebestod aria at the end of Tristan and Isolde. This is a song, an aria about stardust and about love, everlasting love, and literally flying through the cosmos with the person you love. So this is a bit crazy. So what I had to do is I had to try and think big, and I had to also get this extraordinary feeling of scale. So I made Tristan very, very small, surrounded by this massive universe of stars and planets. The biggest piece I've done here is a woodcut called Underworld, An Escape. This is based around Beethoven's extraordinary opera, Fidelio. As you probably know, it all takes place in a prison. What I thought I could do is I looked at a modernist building, and I love modernism, but later on modernism can turn into brutalism, and I thought this would be a very good metaphor for the state. So in a sense, here you have a prison that's very cool and rigid and built out of glass and concrete. And in this picture I set the prison in a forest to, I hope, make connections to liberty and how through our own agency and through our own decisions in a democratic way we have a wonderful way of life. And here our hero, Leonora, she has infiltrated herself into the prison to rescue her man Florestan. It was almost like an architect's model between different zones within a house. Basically heaven and hell, actually. You know, light at the top going down, down, down into darkness. There is this feeling coming back here to performances of this wonderful release and joy of being able to be together and performing. You know, we need art and we need music. These are areas of creativity that they change our lives. And that's why it's so exciting to see suddenly the doors open for performances. So little victories in the day, they might be quite subtle and quite humble, making a drawing that seems truthful, making a mark that seems truthful and not gratuitous. Even when 90% of the time it gets destroyed or painted over, this journey, this kind of forward momentum, as Beethoven would say, is very, very important. So you have little tiny episodes in your day where you can feel not too bad about something. I have ideas and dreams that are half in this world and half in my imagination. I think we have different phases of vision in our lives. As you get older, you often go through rather a rough, boring phase, and then as you get to my age, in my late 50s, I think something else happens where you don't give a stuff anymore and you become brave again. You can see this in all sorts of composers and all sorts of painters and artists and sculptors. I don't know what I'd be doing if I wasn't an artist. In a sense, being an artist, without sounding too dramatic, I feel kind of saved my life. So I can't really imagine myself doing anything else, perhaps being a writer or a playwright if I was clever enough. I wish I could write poetry, but I can't. But what I can try and do is make pictures that allude to love and loss.